Hey everybody, welcome back to the Rock and Metal Guardian. I'm Dane, your host. Hope you're doing great wherever you may find yourselves. Blessings to all of you wonderful people out there. If you're a classic rock fan like myself, and especially if you like the band Styx, you know that when Kilroy Was Here came out, that many people who were Styx fans jumped off the Styx train, including myself. Now, I'm not going to speak for everyone, but there are a lot of people who that was it, I'm out. But a lot of people like me, though we jumped off the train, we went back to the station to see what's what when other releases came out. But again, a lot of us didn't like what followed, and then that was it for us. We would return time and time again, and it would be disappointment after disappointment, and it began really with the Kilroy Was Here album. Sometimes I call it simply the Mr. Roboto album, even though that's the name of the song. That was the MTV hit, right? And then, of course, you have Don't Let It End on that album as well. We know that Styx wanted to follow up Paradise Theater with another concept album, and it began with Tommy Shaw in Japan. He goes there and he writes a song because of his influence and inspiration. I can't remember the name of the song that makes that album, but it's a wonderful song. I just haven't listened to it in a long time. I should give it a listen a lot more. Shame on me. But so he brings it back to Chicago or wherever they're recording. It's time to make a new album, and just doesn't what ends up on that album just doesn't go with that Tommy Shaw song. It's very incohesive at times, even though it's a concept album. There's a couple cool songs with Heavy Metal Poisoning is another one, which I forget. But overall, for many of us, as I said, the album was super disappointment and really a dud. So that got me thinking that in many ways, Mr. Roboto is a song by which all badness is measured, if I'm going to quote movie fans who, when Highlander 2 came out, such a super disappointing film after the genius and wonderful Highlander original film, and that Highlander 2 movie was extremely laughable. And if you're a Big Bang Theory fan, and Raj talks about, he gets in an argument with Sheldon about Star Trek, which is the worst and which is the best Star Trek film in the franchise. And at some point, Raj says that Star Trek V is the film by which all badness is measured. So that got me thinking. So today I'm going to talk about, as you saw from the thumbnail, hitting rock bottom, where bands hit rock bottom, and I call this because they hit rock bottom because they produce a stinker, a really super stinker of a song, and I call this the Mr. Roboto effect after the Styx song Mr. Roboto, because not totally serious, but this is a song by which all badness is measured, very tongue-in-cheek. So, and as you saw from the thumbnail, there may be follow-up videos to this, hence part 1 question mark. As far as Styx is concerned, I think there's parts of Styx 2 that are just terrific. And then there's some cool stuff on the first album and a little bit of coolness on the follow-up to Styx 2. The Serpent is Rising, and then The Man of Miracles. But the band really gets going with Equinox through and including, I would say, Paradise Theater, which I think is their masterpiece, their magnum opus. And I get it. It's really difficult to follow up a magnum opus album, or if it's not a magnum opus album, a really good album. It's very difficult. Think Frampton Comes Alive, right? Without I Mean You, very disappointing. Think as much as we like, us Rush fans that like it, the Signals album pales in comparison to Moving Pictures. So that's perhaps the nature of the beast. But at the same time, this video is about, you've heard people say to others, did you look in the mirror before you left the house, kind of thing. That's kind of what this is. You put the album on and you're like, what? So it's that emotional response that is the Mr. Roboto effect. So let's get started. So obviously, number 1 is Styx with Mr. Roboto. Now keep in mind, some of these songs are laughable. Some of them are not. They're just super disappointing, and again, what was the band thinking? Did they listen? Did you look in the mirror before you left the house? Did you listen to this before you put it on the album? Before you decided, hey, let's put this on the, the acetate or whatever, that kind of thing. Anyway, lay it down on the tape, or however it was processed and produced and mass produced, excuse me. All right, next is REO Speedwagon's I Can't Fight This Feeling. This is if you like ballads, this is a good song, but it's saccharine to me with the it's not cheesy, but the piano or just the overall keys in it, and it's like I said, it's just too saccharine-y, if that's a word. It's and when you have a guitar player like Gary Richrath, may he rest in peace, you're not using him to his full potential, kind of like the Steve Hackett syndrome in Genesis. So it's a good song if you like, almost adult. It's almost an adult contemporary type song. It's borderline that. I'm sure there are Muzak versions of this, but it's just a waste of potential, if you ask me. Not a laughable song, but just so disappointing when we know what this band was capable of during the time. Next is Foreigner, I Want to Know What Love Is. Again, like the REO Speedwagon song, it's not a horrible song, it's not a laughable song, but it's just so disappointing when you know what Foreigner is capable of, with some punch, some crunch, some kick-ass rock like, Cold as Ice and Hot Blooded and other type songs. Again, going down the commercial rabbit hole and really never looking back after this is the order of the day here. And then we come to Rainbow with the Down to Earth album, the song All Night Long. Such a cliched title. I know people have said, hey Dane, rock and roll, the nature of the beast with rock and roll is cliche. It's the order of the day. Doesn't mean it has to be. Right? So, and if you look at Ronnie James Dio's stint in the band, with the exception of Do You Close Your Eyes, there's in Rainbow Eyes, there's not a love song to be found for the most part. I would argue that I can think of. It's more about kings and killing the king, kind of Macbeth-like, and let's see what else. 16th century Greensleeves killing a serial killer, perhaps in the medieval age, that sort of, or the Renaissance period, no, medieval age or before pre-medieval period. And things like that, very majestic and grandeur with, Rainbow Rising and Stargazer and all that. So, All Night Long, how many songs do we know that are about, wanting to spend the night with someone all night long? It's just, I think this is a Russ Ballard penned song. There, and if it's not, there are one or two songs on the album that are. The video, I was immediately turned off. The only thing I like about this album is the drums from Cozy. But yeah, it's for many of us, and again, I can't speak, and this is all subjective, of course, I can't speak for others, but for me, this was just an uber disappointment from a band that I just wanted more gusto from. Aerosmith, the Permanent Vacation album. This is where Steven Tyler and crew hook up with Desmond Child and never turn back to their hard rock, bluesy roots, with the exception of Honkin' on Bobo, which I thought was a disappointment. It still sounds phoned in and going through the motions, at least to me. So for the most part, never looking back. Once Desmond Child comes on aboard, they go to a different songwriter. The band's not writing their own songs anymore for the most part, and essentially this is the Steven Tyler Desmond Child band, and you have songs like Dude Looks Like a Lady, Ragdoll, and Angel. Any of these three can serve as their version of Mr. Roboto with respect to the disappointment that is there on the album. Next is Kiss's album Unmasked with the song Shandy. Again, Kiss, did you look in the mirror before you decided to put this song on the album, kind of thing? A lot of people do not like the song whatsoever. There are some who do, of course, to each his own. But for me, this video is about Shandy is to Kiss what Mr. Roboto is to Styx. Heart. All I want to do is make love to you. Some of these songs, if I didn't say it, are, I think, laughable If they're not laughable, well, if they're laughable, they're a joke of a song to me. But if they're not laughable, and I would say most of them aren't, they're still, did you not look in the mirror before you left the house type songs, disappointing, in other words, that kind of thing. And so, again, this should have been perhaps an Ann Wilson solo type song. Heart really became overall disappointing once they kicked the cool guys out of the band. There's videos on that. So, and it should have been, and I'm not the first person to say this, once you get around, I guess, Passion Works or Private Audition, maybe a little bit after that, it should have just been the Wilson sisters or something like that. I don't know. Anyway, all I want to do is make love to you. And you got a couple other songs on the next album, I think, or the album before that, that's kind of like, disappointing. But when it comes to, you're sipping your water and this comes on the radio for the first time and you spit up some water, it's kind of like that for me. Again, this is borderline on adult contemporary type stuff. Soundgarden. This to me is a joke of a song. I loved Soundgarden in the 90s. I was all in. Like in a poker game. When Grudge hit the scene, I was all in. However, I will tell you that when it comes to the second album from Nirvana, that the shine on that wore off very quickly. I could not get away from Smells Like Teen Spirit enough. It got played over and over again in the bar that I worked in, on the radio, on MTV. I tried to distance myself from it as much as I could, as try as I might with the news, as toxic as it is, with all the war and stuff going on, and it's just kind of like that. You can't get away from it. I tried, but it is what it is. And perhaps down the road I do a video on why I'm not the biggest grunge fan anymore. I do gravitate to some of it still. There's some wonderful grunge out there, but it doesn't captivate me like it used to. But Spoon Man, I thought, oh my God, what the hell is the band doing here? Again, this is what this video is about. I think Spoon Man is a joke of a song. I think it's horrible. You're singing about a guy on the corner playing spoons. Of all the topics that you could come up with, this is what you chose to write about. This is what you thought to sing about. Perhaps if the lyrics were different, it would be a better song. Maybe not. It made its way onto Beavis and Butthead, and I agree with Beavis and Butthead. This is a horrible tune. Next is Night Ranger's Sister Christian. If you know the story, you know that Night Ranger was essentially forced by the record company to quote-unquote sell out and be more commercial, and where do we sign kind of thing. After the wonderful kick-ass song, Don't Tell Me You Love Me, excuse me for the brain bubble there. When the second album came out, I was like, are you kidding me? And the phrase in the song, motorin', I was like, oh, that is so laughable. I know I'm going to anger some people, but hey, it's one person's opinion and one person's opinion only. Iron Maiden, Bring Your Daughter to the Slaughter. All I'll say about this is that to me this is a joke of a song, and just because something rhymes doesn't mean it's good. Kind of like See You Later Alligator in a Wild Crocodile, that kind of thing. The other thing is people used to say curiosity killed the cat, but satisfaction brought it back. Beastie Boys comes to mind. From a lemon to a lime to a lemon, something with all you fly women. That's horrible writing. So again, just because something rhymes doesn't mean it's good. Bring Your Daughter to the Slaughter is a horrible song. Iron Maiden can do so much better. Van Halen, Jump, 1984 album. I've gone on record, I believe, talking about how keys have destroyed synthesizers and keys, and too much keyboards is obtrusive, gets in the way of the rock elements in rock music. So there's that. Def Leppard, the Hysteria album. Here's an album you have much to pick from. Hysteria, Pour Some Sugar on Me, and Love Bites. Those three songs. Again, from a, if you were not labeling yourself as a rock band, this would work well for a band that's borderline, soft rock. Pour Some Sugar on Me is essentially a pole stripper song. Love Bites has no punch to it. Not that all songs need a punch of, yeah, hey, Dane, it's a ballad. Okay, yeah, great. It's not supposed to have punch. But overall, this is where Def Leppard never looked back from their rock days, right? Where their heavy rock period, their first three albums. And I did a video on that called When Def Leppard Actually Rocked. Shameless plug. Def Leppard. Blue Oyster Cult. I remember this like it was yesterday. When Shooting Shark came out, I was like, this is so boring. This has no drive. This has no move. This is just bland. It's like vanilla ice cream compared to chocolate, or it's water compared to iced tea, that kind of thing. Perfect Water, same thing. Blue Oyster Cult, same thing. Banal, boring. The song goes nowhere. It's just, 6 minutes of blandness. Judas Priest, Turbo Lover, and I'll leave it at that. Metallica, Nothing Else Matters. That Black Album, or just, it's called Metallica really. It's a good song if you like, softer ballad type music, but this is, Metallica, folks, and you have 4 wonderful albums, and then you turn out and do this. You're doing what so many bands are doing with let's go down the commercial rabbit hole to sell records and please a new audience kind of thing. So, Ozzy, So Tired. After the wonderfulness of the first 2 Ozzy albums, and this comes out on Bark of the Moon. It's banal, it's boring, it goes nowhere, it's just so disappointing. Dio, Hungry for Heaven. And this is part and parcel because of the fighting between Dio and Vivian Campbell. Dio promised that he would pay his band more money come the 3rd album. He doesn't. So, the fighting produces a lackluster album in Sacred Heart, and you get a lackluster album. You get this commerciality. Dio said he would never use keyboards, and then either starting with this one or the next one or maybe the one after that, you get this 80s sound, and it kind of begins here with the commerciality, at least, if not an 80s sound. 80s sound in a bad way, that kind of thing. Commercial 80s is what I meant. So yeah, Hungry for Heaven is not the Dio I know and love. Genesis, Illegal Alien. I'm going to leave it at that. This next one was so disappointing. They have an album in the 80s. You know what I'm talking about. It's got Owner of a Lonely Heart. I can appreciate that song. It's a commercial pop rock song, but it's got a kind of cool atonal guitar solo on it. But then they put out on the same album the song Leave It. And I thought to myself, oh my God, what have you done, Yes? Where's my yes? Right, that kind of, So yeah, next one is one of those love-hate relationships, talking about the song Amanda by Boston. I'm going to take you by surprise and make you realize Amanda, just very droll and not the Boston I know and love. Cheap Trick, Woke Up with a Monster. Remember when the song The Flame came out? And while this is a ballad, it has such a captivating resonance to it. This is, I don't know what this song is. Woke Up with a Monster, I don't, again, what were you thinking kind of thing. Chicago, Hard Habit to Break / You're the Inspiration. That's all I'll say, because this is so far removed from the progginess and the splendor that is, mixing all kind of genres, jazz, classical music, hard rock, soft rock, all into one, and you get the commercial rabbit hole again. So, can't remember the albums. These are on, this is the 4th or 5th album, but you get the Cars with You Might Think and Magic, and I was just like, oh man. For me, where the Cars' best materials, the first 3 albums. Now, I like these next songs, but compared to what they were doing before, this band was selling out stadium shows like at Shea Stadium before Led Zeppelin did. Grand Funk Railroad or Grand Funk with songs like The Locomotion and She's Some Kind of Wonderful. I like both of these songs, including these two cover versions, but this seems to be where Grand Funk lost its edge and never recaptured its heaviness. So Grand Funk Railroad. Next, Jethro Tull with Steel Monkey, and I'll leave it at that. I'll say when this came on MTV, I was whatever the opposite of being blown away is, and just like, this is when Jethro Tull, I think, sold out. So anyway, the Kinks, at least they sold out very late. I love early Kinks stuff, very English sounding. I love that stuff. The Author album, the Lola album, a lot of concept pieces. Village Green Preservation Society, perhaps their most English sounding album. Just love it. I adore it. I love that early stuff, right? And even the earlier stuff, like songs like "You Really Got Me" and the kind of proto-punk kind of stuff. And I even like when they shed their Englishness, if you will, and do more American-sounding stuff like "Give the People What They Want" and the Show Business album, and what's the album with the woman's red shoes on the asphalt? That one, very going for the American rock style. And then the last album has this horrible uber commercial song. I'm talking about "Come Dancin'," but at least it was late in their career. So Man O' War, Sign of the Hammer, the title track on that album. This is insensitive about the Jim Jones cult. Guyana, and thanks for the Kool-Aid, Jim. Just horrible songwriting, horrible taste, horrible insensitivity to a mass tragedy from the 70s. Motley Crue. How do you go from the heaviness that is Live Wire, Merry-Go-Round, Shout at the Devil, Looks That Kill, to dun 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 dun, I'm on my way, boring. And then to make matters worse, the same album, Smoking in the Boys' Room. All right, Queen, Bicycle Race and Fat Bottom Girls. These are two beloved songs by Queen fans. Not for me. For me, these songs are laughable. Sorry if that angers you, but hey, it's one person's opinion and one person's opinion only. And let me say this. When I did my video on the 13 worst Queen songs of all time, someone wrote the following, quote, "I don't get the hate. These songs define Queen, etc." Okay, here's my response. Well, for many people, they defined Queen. But for many of us, they didn't, okay? Because we wanted that heaviness or that quasi-heaviness. We wanted that kick-ass Brian May guitar tone. We wanted lyrics that aren't laughable. You say Coke, I say Kane, I say John, you say, well, that's horrible songwriting. It's again, it all boils down to preference. So here's my final response to when people say things like, these songs define these songs define Queen, I don't get the hate. Well, people should understand dislike or hate for music because it's called taste, it's called preference. But here's my response. So if someone said, I don't get the hate, these songs define Queen. Again, not for me, one person's opinion. Here's what I say. I don't get you not getting someone else's dislike or hate for certain types of songs, subgenres, styles of music, etc. It's called preference. All right. Next, Queensryche, Silent Lucidity. I liked the song when it first came out, and then I go see them live for the Here and the Now Frontier tour. They play this. I was like, I'm gonna go get a beer. That's when I realized that the song lost its whatever edge. It doesn't have any edginess musically, but it's essentially soft rock. It's borderline adult contemporary types. it's borderline. It's not. It isn't, but it's borderline. It's not. It's not laughable, but it's to me not the Queensryche I know and love. We can pick many from this next band, starting with Power Windows, Hold Your Fire, Roll the Bones. Take your pick. That era of Rush. Could pick from Presto. You could pick from Test for Echo. There's some good songs here or there in this part of their discography, but I would say their Mr. Roboto moment is Big Money and Roll the Bones. I would say equally. Big Money, to me, when I first heard this, I was so disappointed in the bass. I've said this before and I've angered some people already, but the bass to me sounds so sloppy. It lacks resonance. It's not the Geddy Lee style bass playing I know and love. And Roll the Bones is essentially let's jump on the rap train and kind of make it a joke, but not make it a joke. And read Geddy Lee's biography. He talks about that, and he was disappointed that people were disappointed by the song or something like that. Again, look in the mirror before you leave the house kind of thing. Tesla, Edison's Medicine. I love those first two Tesla albums, but when that third album came out, Psychotic Supper, I think, what a horrible album title. I just didn't get this song. And the whole album to me, so anyway. Next is The Who. You'd better, you bet, or something like that. Lyrics are horrible. I also don't like the ooh from Pete Townsend. Sorry about that, but I just your dog keeps licking my nose and chewing up all these letters. You better love me all the time now. Something. I don't get what the Who were thinking when they did this. Now I crossed this song out, but I'm just going to share with you. This song has grown on me. I remember MTV days. The video for Neil Young's "I'm Wondering," you don't see him, and then he pops up, right? I love that. I actually like this song, but there was a time when I thought this was Neil Young's Mr. Roboto moment. So I thought it'd end on a funny moment. I do love this song, actually. It's funny, and the video makes me laugh every once in a while. I'll watch it maybe once a month. I just love, you don't see him, and then the camera, can you see him show? It pops up, right? Just great. So anyway, there you go, folks. Hitting rock bottom when bands produce a stinker song, the Mr. Roboto effect. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. God bless. Bye now.